The night is quiet now, and you're here, settling into a softer place, somewhere between the day you lived and the rest you deserve. You don't have to be anything for a moment. Not strong, not prepared, not inspired. Just a person who made it through another day, lying down in the dark, letting the room hold you the way evening light holds a quiet street. Let your jaw ease a little, like a door slipping off its latch. Let your shoulders drift lower, the way leaves drift when the wind grows tired. Let your hands uncurl, fingers resting without effort, palms warm and calm. Feel your eyes grow heavier, lids settling like curtains at the end of a long play. Your breath smooths out on its own, softening the edges of the day. There's nothing to fix right now, nothing to figure out. The body knows how to settle when you stop asking it to perform. Some of the weight you carried today may still be tucked in the corners of your mind. Work decisions, family expectations, money thoughts that pressed a little too tightly, responsibilities that asked more from you than you had to give. All of it, still humming faintly like a lamp that's just been switched off. You can imagine setting those things down by the door, the way you might place your shoes after coming home, not throwing them away, just letting them rest. You've held them long enough for one day. They can wait. Inside you, the dust begins to settle, the way a jar clears when no one is shaking it. The lights inside your thoughts dim the way shop windows do at closing time. A softer quiet rises beneath it all, steady and warm. Some of you came carrying questions that followed you from morning into evening. Someone here may be holding a regret that keeps chiming in the background. Another person might be feeling the familiar pull of overthinking, circling the same small memory or worry. I've heard these questions many evenings, whispered in different ways, yet all sounding a little like the same tired heartbeat. You're not alone in any of it. Here, there's room to let things be unfinished, room for the gentle truth that everything shifts, everything breathes, everything softens when you stop gripping it. You don't have to press forward tonight. You don't have to rewind anything either. Just let the night wrap itself around you, quiet as a blanket warmed by someone who cares. There's a kindness in moments like this, a small mercy in the way the world slows down. Forgiveness moves through you without effort, like warm water through cupped hands. Even your thoughts begin to loosen their knots, one by one, with patience so soft you barely notice it happening. If you find comfort here, you're welcome to subscribe, so these quiet moments can find you again when the days feel heavy. And if you feel like leaving a simple 1 or 2 inches the comments later, I'll understand either way. All that matters is that you rest. Now, let the room grow even stiller, as if the night itself is leaning in. It's time to drift gently toward the first story. Story 1 inch, the early morning hush. The Buddha sat beneath a tree just outside the monastery, where the light was soft and the air felt freshly washed. A young monk approached, shoulders tight, breath thin, worried about all the tasks he had yet to complete. His mind raced the way some of us feel when work piles up and the day hasn't even begun. He bowed, confessing he felt buried under duties, afraid of disappointing everyone. The Buddha listened quietly, the way an old friend might listen without rushing to fix anything. He reminded the monk, using the simplest words, that a person can only place 1 foot on the path at a time, and no one can walk faster than their own breath. The image settled in the monk's mind like a stone resting at the bottom of a pond. His shoulders dropped, his breath deepened. You might notice something like that in yourself when your inbox grows or deadlines crowd your day. Maybe you've felt that pressure rising behind your ribs, like you're always a little behind. Balance begins with one small pause, one breath, one clear step. Practice this tonight. Place your hand on your chest. Feel one slow rise, one slow fall, and let that be enough for now. Story 02. One warm afternoon, the Buddha walked through a village where a farmer ran toward him, face red, overwhelmed by worry. His ox had wandered off again. His fields were behind schedule, and the weight of feeding his family felt heavier than the plow he dragged each morning. He told the Buddha he was drowning in responsibilities. The Buddha didn't scold him or promise a miracle. He simply pointed toward a nearby river. When the water rises, he said gently, you don't fight it, you move with it. Step by step along the bank, the farmer stood there, breathing slower, feeling a little less trapped in his own rising tide. Maybe you've had days like that when bills, chores, and family needs feel like water pressing at your chest. When it seems like everything demands more than you can give. You don't have to solve everything at once. You just have to stay afloat with the smallest next step. Practice. Sit for a moment tonight and name one thing you can set down until tomorrow. Let it rest by the door of your mind. Story 3 inches, the shade of a banyan tree. A monk came to the Buddha, trembling with anger. Another monk had spoken harshly to him, and he couldn't let it go. His jaw clenched. His thoughts spun, and he felt the way many of us do when someone's words stick like burrs in the mind. The Buddha listened, then asked him to imagine carrying burning coals in his bare hands, hoping they would someday harm the other monk. The monk's eyes widened at the picture. His breath twisted into a softer sigh. Maybe you've held on to old words like that, replaying them at night, letting them scorch you even after the moment has passed. It's exhausting. When you loosen your grip, the pain cools. When you open your hand, the heat falls away. Practice unclench your hands for a slow breath or two, noticing how much tension they were holding without your permission. Story 04. One evening, a grieving mother knelt before the Buddha, sorrow shaking through her. Her child had died suddenly, and she begged him for medicine to bring the boy back. Her desperation echoed the kind of heartache people feel after deep loss, regret, guilt, the ache of wishing things could be different. The Buddha asked her to find a mustard seed from a home untouched by death. She knocked on door after door, discovering each family had known loss of some kind. By nightfall, her tears shifted from frantic to quiet, and she understood she was not alone. You might know that feeling, wishing something in the past could be undone, carrying blame that isn't yours, feeling singled out by pain. Grief softens when shared. Loneliness thins when we see others carry their own stories. Practice. Place a hand on your heart for a moment and whisper quietly inside, I'm doing the best I can. Story 05. A wealthy merchant visited the Buddha. Troubled by jealousy, he had everything he needed, yet he constantly compared himself to others. His stomach twisted, sleep escaped him, and nothing felt good enough. The Buddha invited him to look at a clear pool nearby. The merchant peered in and saw his face ripple. When the water is stirred, the Buddha said, nothing looks true. The merchant watched the ripples fade, and suddenly his reflection softened into calm. Maybe you've compared yourself to others' careers, homes, families until your peace felt blurred. Maybe you've judged yourself by someone else's pace. Clarity comes when the mind stops stirring the water. Your worth isn't measured against anyone. Practice tonight. Whisper one thing you appreciate about who you already are. Story 06. A monk once told the Buddha he felt ashamed because he kept making the same small mistakes. He felt unworthy, embarrassed, and tense, much like we feel when we stumble at work or snap at someone we love. He wanted to be perfect, and the pressure inside him was exhausting. The Buddha pointed to a tree whose bark showed marks from storms and years of growth. It still stands, he said softly. It still shelters the birds. The monk breathed deeply, letting go of the tightness around his own expectations. Maybe you've held yourself to impossible standards too, judging every slip as a failure. Maybe you've forgotten that growth includes uneven edges. You're allowed to be imperfect. You're allowed to keep trying, gently. Practice. Place one palm on your belly and let it rise naturally for a moment, reminding yourself that effort doesn't have to be harsh. Story 07. A young householder came to the Buddha, anxious about money, worried he'd lose his home, tense from carrying too many roles: provider, parent, partner. His breath shook as he spoke. The Buddha walked with him to a field where seedlings pushed up through soil. They rise a little each day. The Buddha said, because they don't try to grow all at once. The man exhaled slowly, shoulders easing. Maybe your own finances or responsibilities feel heavy at times, like the ground shifting under your feet. Maybe you lie awake feeling you must do everything by yourself. You grow the same way seedlings do, bit by bit, steadily. Small consistency builds strength. Practice. Write one small step for tomorrow on a note beside your bed. Then let the rest wait outside your mind. Story 08. An angry man once shouted at the Buddha, blaming him for things the Buddha had never done. When he finished, breath ragged and fists trembling, the Buddha remained calm. His stillness confused the man. The Buddha explained gently that he didn't have to pick up what was thrown at him. The man's anger crumpled into embarrassment, then relief. His breath steadied. Maybe someone's words have hit you this week: criticism at work, tension at home, and you felt the urge to carry it all. Maybe it stayed with you longer than it should have. You don't have to accept what isn't yours. You're free to leave the burden on the ground. Practice. Imagine placing someone else's harsh words into a small box and sliding it away from your heart. Story 09. A monk plagued by restless thoughts came to the Buddha, worried he'd never quiet his mind. He felt ashamed, believing everyone else was calmer, steadier, more disciplined. The Buddha told him of a lute whose strings were too tight, they snapped; too loose, they didn't play. The monk breathed easier, realizing he didn't need perfect stillness, just balance. His face softened. Maybe your own mind races at night, thoughts crowding like people trying to board the same train. Maybe you think you're the only one who struggles. Balance isn't silence. Balance is kindness toward your own pace. Practice. Feel the breath in your nose for 3 gentle cycles. Not forcing anything, just noticing. Story 10. One evening, a king visited the Buddha, troubled by the weight of ruling endless decisions, pressure from advisors, fear of making the wrong choice. He admitted he felt like he was walking through fog. The Buddha lit a small lamp and set it before him. In darkness, he said, you only need enough light for the next few steps. The king's worried face loosened. Maybe you've had days filled with decision fatigue, too many emails, too many choices. Too many expectations. Maybe you're tired of carrying the whole future on your shoulders. You only need to see a little farther than your next step. The rest will appear when you get there. Practice gently breathe while naming one thing you can focus on tomorrow and let every other task rest in the dark for now. Story 11. One morning, the Buddha sat quietly along a forest path when a monk arrived. Shoulders hunched with guilt, he had spoken harshly to another monk and now felt a knot of regret twisting inside him. He worried he had ruined their friendship and feared the judgment of others. His mind replayed the moment again and again, the way ours does after we say something we wish we hadn't. The Buddha listened, then pointed to footprints in the dust. "The wind will smooth them," he said gently. "When the ground is ready." The monk breathed out, sensing that mistakes don't last forever when met with sincerity. Maybe you've said or done something that stayed with you long after the moment passed. Maybe the shame sat in your chest like a stone, heavy and unmoving. Mistakes soften when met with honesty. Regret loosens when kindness is applied. Practice. Imagine placing your hand over the mistake, then opening your palm as if letting it float away on a warm breeze. Story 12 inches. The cool shade near a riverbank. A householder came to the Buddha shaking with worry. His business was failing. His family depended on him. And every night he lay awake, imagining what could go wrong. He felt trapped between fear and responsibility, like many of us do when money grows tight. The Buddha picked up a handful of leaves, letting them slip through his fingers. "Only a few matter right now," he said softly. "The ones you can hold without squeezing too hard." The man felt his breath deepen, the tightness in his chest easing a little. Maybe you've clutched too many problems at once, trying to hold everything together with sheer force. Maybe it left you exhausted. Focus softens fear. One clear task steadies the mind. Practice before bed. Name just one thing you'll face tomorrow and release the rest like leaves falling from your hand. Story 13. A young monk who envied another monk's skills approached the Buddha during evening quiet. He admired the other monk's discipline and confidence, and each comparison made him feel smaller. His heart tightened with each thought, like many of us feel when measuring ourselves against someone else's success. The Buddha pointed to two trees, one tall, one small. "They grow at different rhythms," he said, "yet both reach for the same light." The monk felt something inside him loosen, his breath warming again. Maybe you've looked at someone else's career, family, or achievements and felt yourself shrink. Maybe you forgot that your path has its own timing. Your life doesn't need to match anyone else's rhythm. Growth isn't a race. Practice. Place your hand on your heart and name one thing you're growing in slowly, steadily, in your own way. Story 14. Near the monastery gate. A man arrived furious at a friend who had betrayed his trust. His anger burned so hot it left him shaking. He wanted the Buddha to tell him how to make things right, or how to punish the man who hurt him. The fire inside him looked familiar, the kind people feel after a deep disappointment. The Buddha drew a line in the dirt. "You can follow this line forever if you keep tracing it," he said gently. "Or you can lift your hand." The man inhaled sharply, realizing how his anger kept him stuck. Maybe you've replayed an old wound, feeding it with fresh thoughts each night. Maybe it's taken more energy than you meant to give. Letting go isn't agreement. It's choosing not to carry the fire anymore. Practice. Imagine the anger as a small ember in your hand. Then picture placing it gently on the ground and stepping back. Story 15. A monk troubled by constant worries approached the Buddha at dusk. His mind jumped from one fear to another, his future, his duties, his health. He felt swallowed by what-ifs. The Buddha listened without judgment, then pointed to the horizon where clouds slowly drifted. They move without your effort. The Buddha said softly, "Your thoughts can too." The monk watched the clouds and felt his breath loosen. Maybe you've had nights where worry circles your mind like birds that won't land. Maybe you felt helpless against your own thoughts. Thoughts are visitors, not masters. They pass when you stop chasing them. Practice. Imagine each worry as a cloud drifting across a wide sky. Let them float without grabbing any one of them. Story 16. A woman grieving her husband came to the Buddha, her tears steady and relentless. She felt hollow, overwhelmed by memories and fears about the future. The Buddha welcomed her to sit beside him, letting the silence wrap around them before he spoke. He pointed to a lamp. The flame changes every moment. He said, "Yet light continues." She softened a little, realizing her love didn't disappear even as life shifted beyond her control. Maybe you felt that kind of ache, missing someone, missing a time in your life, missing who you used to be. Maybe the emptiness felt endless. Pain doesn't erase love. Love continues in quieter ways. Practice. Hold your hands together gently and breathe once, imagining warmth moving between your palms like a small light. Story 17. A merchant visited the Buddha, restless with ambition. He chased success endlessly, never satisfied, always reaching for more. His mind churned, even in the quiet hours. Much like modern workers caught in constant striving, the Buddha invited him to look at a bird perched on a branch. When it has enough, it rests, he said softly. The merchant stared, realizing he hadn't rested in years. Maybe you've felt that push to keep going, afraid to slow down, believing everything will collapse if you stop. Maybe exhaustion became your constant companion. Rest is part of progress. Enough is a moment you're allowed to feel. Practice. Place one hand on your belly, one on your chest, and breathe gently, as if giving yourself permission to pause. Story 18. A monk confessed to the Buddha that he was terrified of failure. He avoided challenges, fearing embarrassment and criticism. His heart tightened every time he imagined making a mistake. The Buddha nodded, then pointed to a child learning to walk nearby. "She falls many times," he said, "but each fall is part of her strength." The monk watched the child stand again, something inside him softening. Maybe you've avoided risks because fear whispered too loudly. Maybe you've stayed small to stay safe. Courage grows from small steps. Falling is not failing. Practice. Write one tiny risk you can take tomorrow, something gentle, manageable, and breathe with it for a moment. Story 19. A man burdened by guilt over past choices approached the Buddha late at night. Unable to forgive himself, he felt undeserving of kindness, convinced he had ruined too much. The Buddha listened, then handed him a bowl of water. When the man stirred the water, it turned cloudy. When he let it rest, it cleared. Your mind can settle too, the Buddha said. The man inhaled deeply, feeling a tenderness he hadn't allowed himself before. Maybe you've held old mistakes like weights tied to your chest. Maybe you've struggled to believe you deserve peace. Forgiveness begins inside. Stillness reveals clarity. Practice. Close your eyes and imagine muddy water slowly clearing, giving yourself permission to rest instead of stirring old pain. Story 20. A king visited the Buddha, exhausted from ruling constant decisions, constant pressure, constant scrutiny. He admitted he felt like he carried an entire world on his shoulders. The Buddha placed a small stone in his palm. Even heavy loads are carried one stone at a time. He said gently. The king's fingers softened around the stone as a steadier breath found him. Maybe you felt crushed by responsibility, family, work, expectations. Maybe you've believed you had to hold everything together alone. No one carries the whole world. One stone at a time is enough. Imagine gathering all your duties into a small pile and choosing just one to hold tomorrow, letting the rest wait peacefully. Story: 21 inches, the quiet of early morning. The Buddha sat beneath a tree when a young man approached. Trembling with frustration, his family argued constantly, each conversation turning into pressure on his shoulders. He felt torn between wanting to help and wanting to run. The Buddha listened with patient eyes, letting the man's breath settle. He pointed to a wheelbarrow nearby. It moves only when pushed from the center, he said softly, not from every side at once. The man blinked, sensing that he had been trying to stand in too many places at the same time. Maybe your own family has moments that stretch you thin. Maybe you're the peacemaker, the listener, the one everyone turns to. Even when you're tired, you're allowed to stand at the center of your own life. Balance begins with one steady step. Practice, place your hand on your heart and whisper one boundary you need, just one, and let it feel real inside your chest. Story 22. A monk overwhelmed by constant criticism came to the Buddha with downcast eyes. Whenever someone corrected him, even gently, he felt small and ashamed. He carried those comments like stones in his robe. The Buddha invited him to sit beside a still pond. He tossed a pebble into the water. Ripples fade, he said. Only the surface remembers for a moment. The monk breathed deeply, realizing he didn't have to hold every remark so tightly. Maybe you've heard words that stuck to you longer than they should have. Maybe they echo even now when you're tired or uncertain. Not every opinion deserves a home in you. Let the ripples fade. Practice, imagine the words that hurt sinking to the bottom of a calm pond, far from where your heart rests. Story 23. A farmer came to the Buddha, shoulders tight with blame. His crop had failed, and he felt responsible for every detail: rain, soil, pests, all the things he couldn't control. The Buddha placed a seed in his palm and closed the farmer's fingers gently around it. You care for it, he said, but you do not command the rain. The farmer's breath softened, realizing his guilt came from trying to control the uncontrollable. Maybe you've carried responsibility for things far beyond your reach, people's moods, outcomes at work, the twists of life. Maybe the pressure grew heavy. Do your part and let the world do its part. Control has limits. Care does not. Practice, name one thing you can influence today, and one thing you'll release to the larger world. Story 24. A woman arrived at the monastery angry with herself for not being perfect. She tried to please everyone, her parents, her children, her employer, and it left her exhausted. Sitting beside her, the Buddha handed her a cracked bowl. It still holds water, he said with a small smile. Its flaws do not erase its purpose. She felt something inside her settle, like a knot loosening. Maybe you've pushed yourself to be flawless. Believing anything less means failure. Maybe the pressure left you drained and silently hurting. Perfection is not required. Your worth is not fragile. Practice, place both hands on your belly and breathe gently. imagining acceptance filling the spaces you used to judge. Story 25. A monk troubled by envy approached the Buddha at dusk. He envied another monk's calm posture, his grace, his discipline. Every comparison twisted his stomach. The Buddha motioned toward two lotus flowers, one open wide, one still tight in its bud. Each opens at its own hour. He said softly, "The sun does not rush them." The monk exhaled, sensing the truth in his body. Maybe you've compared your path to someone else's career, family, success, and felt yourself fall behind in your own mind. Your bloom has its own timing. Comparison clouds the view. Practice whisper one thing you appreciate about your own path, even if it's small or slow. Story 26. A soldier came to the Buddha, haunted by mistakes he had made in anger. He feared he couldn't change, that his past defined him. His hands shook as he spoke. The Buddha guided him to look at the nearby river. "See how the water flows," he said quietly. "It does not cling to what has passed by." The soldier felt a release inside him, as though the river carried some of his weight. Maybe your past whispers to you in quiet moments. Maybe old actions or choices rise up, asking to be forgiven. You are more than moments you regret. Change begins with willingness. Practice. Imagine placing one old memory on a leaf and letting it drift down a wide, gentle river. Story 27. A merchant visited the Buddha, terrified of losing wealth. Every day he checked his accounts nervously, afraid of scarcity. His thoughts followed him everywhere, even in sleep. The Buddha picked up a small pile of sand and let it fall through his fingers. Tight fists hold very little. He said, "Open hands can receive." The merchant swallowed, realizing his fear had closed him off from peace. Maybe money worries have followed you through long nights, tightening your chest and shortening your breath. Maybe the fear feels endless. Fear narrows the world. Softening opens it again. Practice unclench your hands. Rest them on your lap. And breathe as if opening space inside your chest. Story 28. A young mother came to the Buddha, overwhelmed by caring for her children. She loved them deeply but felt stretched thin, no time for herself. No quiet moments. Tears pooled in her eyes. The Buddha smiled gently and pointed to a lamp. "It shines because it is tended." He said, "Even a lamp needs oil to burn." She nodded slowly, realizing she had given everything except rest to herself. Maybe you've cared for others until you were empty. Maybe you forgot that your well-being matters too. Care for yourself to care for others. Rest is part of love. Practice. Place a hand on your chest and whisper, "I need tending too," allowing the words to soften your breath. Story 29. A monk who feared change approached the Buddha with trembling hands. The monastery was evolving, new responsibilities, new routines, and he felt unsteady. The Buddha guided him to watch bamboo swaying gently in the wind. "It survives by bending," he said. "Stiffness breaks, softness endures." The monk felt the lesson echo through his body. Maybe change has arrived in your life. New roles, new seasons, new pressures, and part of you resists it. Flexibility brings peace. Softness is strength. Practice. Roll your shoulders slowly, imagining yourself bending gently with whatever life brings. Story 30. A craftsman visited the Buddha, furious with a co-worker who had insulted him. The anger pulsed in his chest like a drum. The Buddha listened, then handed him a burning coal. "If you carry this," he said, It is your hand that burns. The craftsman shook, realizing what his anger was doing to him. Maybe you've held on to resentment long after the moment passed. Maybe it drained your energy and colored your days. Let go to stop the burning. Peace begins when you release the heat. Practice exhale slowly and imagine setting a hot coal down, feeling the relief spread through your palms and chest. Story, 31 inches, the quiet glow of dawn. A monk approached the Buddha with anxious steps. He confessed he often spoke without thinking, quick comments, sharp replies, words he regretted the moment they left his mouth. His heart felt tangled, the way many of us feel after saying something in haste at work or at home. The Buddha listened, then invited him to notice the breeze moving through the trees. It pauses before it shifts, he said softly. The monk felt the simple rhythm settle inside him. Maybe you've spoken too quickly and wished you could pull the words back. Maybe you felt the sting of regret long after the moment passed. A pause is a kindness. A breath is protection. Practice before your next important conversation. Take one slow breath and let your shoulders drop just enough space to soften your words. Story 32. A fisherman visited the Buddha carrying deep worry. When his nets were full, he feared losing the catch. When they were empty, he feared going hungry. His mind jumped between gain and loss, never resting. The Buddha led him to a calm inlet where the water barely rippled. Peace doesn't come from full nets, he said gently. It comes from a steady heart. The fisherman looked out at the quiet water and felt something inside him settle. Maybe you've tied your peace to outcomes, income, praise, results, success, and felt anxious when things shifted. Peace grows from steadiness, not certainty. A quiet heart sees clearly. Practice. Place one hand on your belly and breathe until you feel the rise and fall slow, even a little. Story 33. A monk troubled by constant self-doubt knelt before the Buddha. He felt unworthy of the path, convinced others were more capable. His thoughts circled him like a cage. The Buddha picked up a small pebble. Even a pebble changes the flow of a great river. He said, "Smallness does not mean insignificance." The monk inhaled deeply, his spine straightening. Maybe you felt small compared to others' colleagues, friends, family. Maybe doubt whispered too loudly for too long. Your presence matters. Small steps shape your life. Practice. Write down one strength you rarely acknowledge, and let it rest on your pillow tonight. Story 34. One evening, a woman came to the Buddha confused about a decision. She felt torn between responsibility and desire, trapped in overthinking. Her mind spun until she was exhausted. The Buddha lit a small lamp and placed it a few steps ahead. "You don't need the whole path," he said. "You only need enough light for now." Her breath eased, as though some tight knot inside her gently unwound. Maybe you've stood at a crossroads, career choices, relationships, life changes, and felt pressure to see the whole future at once. Clarity comes in small lights. One step is enough. Practice. Ask yourself one simple question tonight. What is my very next gentle step? Let that be enough. Story 35. A monk, burdened by judgment, approached the Buddha. He constantly compared himself to other monks, thinking he was better than some and worse than others. It left him restless and hollow. The Buddha pointed to a field of wildflowers. Each grows without measuring the others, he said softly. The monk felt his chest lighten. Maybe you've judged people around you, co-workers, relatives, neighbors, and felt the tension it creates inside. Maybe comparison narrowed your heart. Judgment shrinks the world. Kindness lets it breathe. Practice. Think of one person you judged today and silently wish them well, even for a moment. Story 36. A father came to the Buddha worried about his children's future. He feared making the wrong choices for them, feared not giving enough, feared failing them. The Buddha invited him to watch a young tree swaying gently. You water it, he said. You shield it from storms, but it grows in its own way. The father breathed slowly, realizing he wasn't meant to control every outcome. Maybe you worry for your family, hoping you're doing enough, fearing what you can't foresee. Love guides, control tightens. Practice. Sit for a moment and imagine offering your loved ones a soft, steady light rather than a heavy expectation. Story 37. A monk confessed he felt lonely even in the monastery, surrounded by others. He still felt unseen. The Buddha motioned for him to sit and watch the sunrise together. The sky shifted from dark to soft gold. Even the sun appears slowly. The Buddha said, "Connection grows in its own time." The monk exhaled, allowing space for patience in his heart. Maybe you felt lonely in a crowded room, or disconnected even from people who love you. Maybe companionship felt far away. Loneliness is a passing cloud. Connection takes gentle time. Practice. Send a simple message to one person you trust, nothing heavy, just a warm hello. Story 38. A man visited the Buddha burdened by resentment toward his brother. They had argued years ago, and he carried the bitterness like a shadow. The Buddha picked up a cup of water and held it out. "If you hold it too long," he said, "the weight becomes pain." The man felt the truth land softly inside him. Maybe you've carried old resentment that stiffens your shoulders and deepens your sighs. Maybe it's lasted longer than the moment ever deserved. Resentment steals years. Release returns peace. Practice. Breathe out slowly and imagine the weight sliding off your shoulders like a cloak you no longer need. Story 39. A young monk, obsessed with success, came to the Buddha feeling impatient. He wanted quick results, fast progress, visible change. His restlessness felt like a fire inside him. The Buddha pointed to a stone worn smooth by years of flowing water. "Some things deepen only with time," he said. The monk felt his desire soften. Maybe you've rushed your growth, career goals, personal habits, healing. Maybe impatience made you feel behind. Patience shapes you quietly. Time is part of the practice. Practice. Sit for 1 minute watching your breath move without trying to change it, just witnessing. Story 40. A merchant came to the Buddha, exhausted from constant travel. He felt torn between places, never fully present anywhere. His mind raced ahead while his body lagged behind. The Buddha touched the trunk of a large tree. "Roots steady the wandering branches," he said. The merchant breathed more deeply, imagining roots beneath his own feet. Maybe your days pull you in many directions: work, family, errands, worries. Maybe you move so fast you barely feel where you are. Presence steadies the heart. Root yourself where your feet are. Practice. Pause once today and feel both feet on the ground, letting the moment anchor you. A monk came to the Buddha in the late afternoon light, troubled by constant cravings. He wanted comfort, praise, approval, always something more. Each desire left him restless, like a thirst that kept returning. The Buddha led him to a small well and asked him to look at the water. "When you stir it, he said softly. Your reflection disappears. The monk understood that chasing every longing only clouded his peace. His breath felt steadier. Maybe you felt that pull too, wanting more from work, from relationships, from life, thinking the next thing will finally feel like enough. Craving stirs the water. Stillness reveals what's already here. Practice sit for a moment and name one thing that is already enough in your life, even if it's small. Story 42. A weary traveler asked the Buddha why people hurt each other so easily. He had been insulted, cheated, and pushed aside during his journey. The pain weighed on him. The Buddha invited him to sit under a tree whose branches stretched wide. Closeness brings both shade and falling leaves, he said gently. The traveler breathed out, realizing relationships carry both comfort and difficulty. Maybe your own life has held moments where someone's care mixed with conflict, family disagreements, tension with co-workers, misunderstandings with friends. You can accept the shade without clinging to the fallen leaves. Both are part of being close. Practice think of someone who challenges you and silently wish them steadiness for one breath. Story 43. A monk came to the Buddha ashamed of his impatience. He grew irritated quickly at chores, at others, at himself. His annoyance felt like a flame he couldn't control. The Buddha handed him a cool stone. Hold this, he said. Let the heat pass. The monk sat quietly, feeling his body slow down. The flame inside dimmed. Maybe you've had days when small frustrations piled up until you snapped. Maybe impatience left you tired and regretful. Impatience cools with stillness. A pause can save your peace. Practice next time irritation rises. Place your hand on something cool, a table, a cup, your own forearm, and breathe once before speaking. Story 44. A woman anxious about aging approached the Buddha. She worried her youth was fading, her strength changing, her future uncertain. Her fear tightened around her like a cloak. The Buddha pointed to a blooming flower beside a wilted one. Each stage has its beauty, he said softly. The petals fall, but the fragrance remains. Her shoulders eased as she breathed in the truth. Maybe you felt time moving faster than you wanted, new lines on your skin, new aches, new seasons of life. Aging is a gentle teacher. Its gifts come quietly. Practice gently touch your cheek, noticing its warmth, and honor the years that brought you here. Story 45. A monk troubled by constant rumination approached the Buddha. His mind replayed old conversations and imagined future problems. He felt trapped between what had happened and what might happen. The Buddha gestured to a bird taking flight. It touches each branch only once, he said. The monk let out a long breath, feeling space open inside him. Maybe your thoughts fly backward and forward too, leaving the present thin and hard to hold. Return to the branch beneath you. This moment is enough. Practice look around the room and name 3 things you can see right now, grounding yourself where you are. Story 46. A young man confessed to the Buddha that he felt unseen. He worked hard, tried his best, but no one seemed to notice. His heart felt hollow. The Buddha guided him to a tree full of fresh fruit. The tree doesn't bear fruit for praise, he said. It simply offers what it has. The man felt something warm rise in his chest. Maybe you've done quiet work no one acknowledged, caregiving, long hours, emotional labor, and felt invisible. Your worth is not measured by applause. What you give matters even in silence. Practice Write down one thing you offered today: kindness, effort, patience, and let it count. Story 47. A monk shaken by fear of uncertainty came to the Buddha. He feared sickness, loss, the unknown. His mind spun with what if after what if. The Buddha picked up a lantern and walked a few steps ahead. Light moves with you, he said gently. The monk breathed deeper, realizing he didn't need the whole map, just the next few feet. Maybe uncertainty has crept into your nights too, about work, health, relationships, the world. Walk with the lantern you have. The path appears as you move. Practice. Place one hand on your chest and feel one steady breath, reminding yourself you're here, right now. Story 48. A merchant came to the Buddha full of regret about wasted years. He wished he had started earlier, chosen differently, lived more wisely. The Buddha picked up a small branch broken at the tip. It still grows from here, he said. The merchant's eyes softened as he realized growth is always possible. Maybe you've looked back and felt the sting of lost time, missed chances, old decisions, roads not taken. It's never too late to begin again. Growth starts wherever you stand. Practice. Write one small thing you'll begin this week, not perfectly, just honestly. Story 49. A monk confessed to the Buddha that he felt overwhelmed by helping others. People brought him their fears, their tears, their worries. He cared deeply, but the weight became too much. The Buddha poured water from one cup into another until the first cup emptied. You must refill, he said. Only then can you pour again. The monk nodded slowly, sensing the truth in his bones. Maybe you've carried others' burdens until your own strength thinned. Maybe compassion left you tired instead of nourished. Compassion must include you too. Rest keeps the heart open. Practice. Close your eyes for 1 minute today and breathe as if feeding your own flame. Story 50. A young man approached the Buddha, feeling lost. He had many skills but no clear direction. Every choice felt heavy. Every path looked uncertain. The Buddha pointed to a wide field. Walk anywhere, he said, and the ground will meet your feet. The young man felt the tension in his chest soften. Maybe you feared choosing the wrong path, career, relationship. Next step, worrying you'll regret it later. The right path is the one you walk with presence. Direction grows as you move. Practice. Choose one small action towards something meaningful tomorrow, and let that be your beginning. Story 51. A monk came to the Buddha worried that he was falling behind everyone else. Others seemed wiser, calmer, more disciplined. He felt slow, inadequate, and ashamed. The Buddha invited him to walk beside a stream where the water flowed at different speeds. Every part of the stream reaches the ocean, he said gently. The monk felt his breath ease, realizing progress didn't need to match anyone else's pace. Maybe you felt behind too, comparing your achievements to co-workers, friends, or siblings until your chest tightened. Your pace is your path. Slow does not mean lost. Practice. Whisper one gentle sentence to yourself: I'm moving at my own rhythm, and let your shoulders soften. Story 52. A woman approached the Buddha carrying a deep, quiet sadness. She felt disconnected from joy, exhausted by daily chores, family needs, and constant pressure. She wondered if something was wrong with her. The Buddha handed her a small seed. Joy grows like this, he said softly. It begins unseen, She held the seed carefully, feeling a faint warmth return. Maybe you've had seasons where joy felt far away, buried under work, stress, or old disappointments. Joy returns in small sprouts. You don't have to force it. Practice name one tiny thing that felt good today. A warm drink, a kind word, a breath, and let it count. Story 53. A monk confessed to the Buddha that he felt hurt when others ignored him. He longed for recognition and felt invisible when it didn't come. His heart felt raw. The Buddha touched the trunk of an old, sturdy tree. It stands quietly. He said, "Its strength doesn't need witnesses." The monk felt something inside him settle. Maybe you've done good work that no one noticed, or loved someone who didn't see your efforts. Maybe invisibility stung more than you admitted. Unseen does not mean unworthy. Quiet strength is still strength. Practice place your hand on your chest and acknowledge, just for yourself, one thing you quietly gave today. Story 54. A man burdened by anger approached the Buddha. Someone had cheated him, and his chest burned with resentment. He couldn't stop replaying the moment. The Buddha handed him a cup filled to the brim. "Try walking without spilling," he said. The man took one step, and water splashed. He realized how anger overflowed into every part of his life. Maybe your anger has followed you from room to room. Coloring work, family, and rest. Maybe the spill has been heavier than the cause. Anger spills into everything it touches. Set the cup down. Practice, take one slow exhale, imagining the cup resting safely on a table, no longer shaking in your hands. Story 55. A monk troubled by envy came to the Buddha. He envied another monk's talents and confidence. His heart tightened each time he watched him. The Buddha pointed to the moon reflected in a pot of water. "Each vessel holds a different moon," he said gently. The monk felt a warmth rise in him. Maybe you've compared your gifts to someone else's, feeling smaller, duller, or late. Your moon is yours alone. No reflection replaces another. Practice, write one quality you appreciate about yourself and place the note where you'll see it tomorrow morning. Story 56. A woman came to the Buddha, exhausted by her attempts to please everyone. She said yes to every request, every favor, every demand until she felt hollow. The Buddha handed her a full bowl. "If you keep pouring," he said, "you will spill." Her breath softened as she realized she had given beyond her own limits. Maybe you've stretched yourself thin at work, at home, in friendships, trying to keep peace at the cost of your own rest. Saying no is an act of care. Your bowl must stay full enough to carry. Practice, think of one small request you can decline this week and allow yourself that boundary. Story 57. A monk arrived, trembling with fear of making the wrong choice in his life. Every path seemed risky. Every decision felt heavy. The Buddha placed a stone in his hand. "You learn its weight by holding it," he said. The monk understood that decisions become clear only through experience. Maybe you've feared choosing wrong jobs, relationships, moves, changes, paralyzed by possibility. Clarity grows through action. You learn the path by walking. Practice. Choose one small decision tonight, a gentle, simple one, and let yourself follow through. Story 58. A man confessed to the Buddha that he felt stuck. His dreams felt far away, his routine suffocating. He wanted change, but felt trapped by habit. The Buddha pointed to a small sprout pushing through hard soil. "Growth begins where you stand," he said. The man felt hope loosen the tightness in his chest. Maybe you felt stuck in the same patterns, same job, same worries, same weeks, repeating. A small crack begins the shift. Even hard soil can open. Practice. Write down one tiny change you'll make tomorrow, one that feels possible, not perfect. Story 59. A monk anxious about his future approached the Buddha. He feared losing people he loved, feared sickness, feared uncertainty. His mind raced into tomorrow. The Buddha touched the earth beneath them. This ground holds you now, he said softly. The monk inhaled, feeling the present catch him. Maybe your worries pull you into the next week, next month, next year, stealing the peace of the moment you're actually living. The present is your anchor. Return to where your feet are. Practice, feel your feet on the floor for 3 breaths, noticing the support beneath you. Story 60. A woman came to the Buddha, grieving a friendship that had drifted apart. She missed what they once shared and blamed herself for the distance. The Buddha pointed to the changing sky. Clouds part, he said. Some return, some do not. The sky remains. She exhaled, letting sadness soften instead of harden. Maybe you've lost someone not through conflict, but through time, distance, or life's quiet shifts. Maybe you've wondered what you could have done differently. Relationships change like weather. Your sky is still whole. Practice. Place your hand on your heart and whisper gratitude for one friendship you've had, past or present. Story 61. A monk approached the Buddha, feeling restless. No matter how much he meditated, cleaned, studied, or helped others, his mind refused to settle. He felt like a failure, frustrated by his own impatience. The Buddha walked with him to a pond where lotus buds were slowly opening. They open when the sun warms them, he said softly, not when they command themselves to. The monk felt something loosen inside him, as though he had been holding his breath for days. Maybe you've pushed yourself too hard, expecting calm on demand, productivity without pause, peace on a schedule. Healing has its timing. Nothing blooms by force. Practice. Place your palm over your belly and let it rise gently once, reminding yourself to soften your pace. Story 62. A householder came to the Buddha with shame tightening his voice. He had spoken harshly to his wife during an argument and couldn't stop reliving it. The Buddha guided him to a bamboo grove. Bamboo bends, he said, lightly pressing a stalk. It doesn't break when the wind comes. The man felt a softening in his chest, realizing that relationships can bend too. Maybe you've said something you regret, words thrown out in stress or exhaustion, and worried it couldn't be repaired. Relationships bow and return. Honesty helps them stand again. Practice. Take one slow breath and imagine offering a small, sincere apology to someone you love. Story 63. A monk weighed down by self-criticism came to the Buddha. He judged every thought, every action, every mistake. His inner voice was sharp and unforgiving. The Buddha handed him a smooth stone. Feel how gentle it has become, he said. Water shaped it with patience, not force. The monk's shoulders relaxed as he held the stone. Maybe your own mind speaks harshly to you about your body, your choices, your work. Maybe you're tired of that voice. Be as patient with yourself as water is with stone. Softness shapes more deeply than pressure. Practice. Place your hand on your cheek and offer yourself one kind phrase you've never said before. Story 64. A man arrived overwhelmed by constant noise work demands. family needs, deadlines. He felt pulled in every direction. The Buddha invited him to listen to the faint rustle of leaves overhead. Even the forest rests between winds. He whispered. The man exhaled slowly, realizing he hadn't paused in months. Maybe your days feel full of noise emails, meetings, errands, texts, leaving little space for breath. Stillness is not a luxury. It's nourishment. Practice close your eyes for 10 seconds and notice the quietest sound in the room. Let it steady you. Story 65. A monk confessed to the Buddha that he felt jealous of others' praise. Every compliment given to someone else felt like a loss for him. His heart tightened with each comparison. The Buddha pointed to the sky where countless stars glowed. Each shines without taking light from another. The monk felt his jealousy dissolve a little. Maybe you've felt that pinch too when a coworker succeeds, when a friend thrives, when someone else receives what you hoped for. Another's light does not dim yours. There is room for everyone to shine. Practice. Think of one person you envy and silently wish them well for one gentle breath. Story 66. A woman grieving her mother came to the Buddha. She felt lost without her guidance and warmth. She feared she'd never feel whole again. The Buddha pointed to a tree whose fallen leaves enriched the soil. What has gone still nourishes what remains, he said. Her tears softened into a quiet release. Maybe you've lost someone whose presence shaped your life. Maybe the longing still rises unexpectedly. Love changes form, not direction. It continues in the roots of your days. Practice. Place both hands on your heart and breathe once in their memory. Letting warmth, not ache, fill your chest. Story 67. A monk, anxious about failing others, approached the Buddha. He feared disappointing his teacher, disappointing the community, disappointing himself. The Buddha invited him to watch a bird feeding its chicks. It brings what it can, he said. Never more, never less. The monk felt relief wash through him. Maybe you feel responsible for everyone, parents, children, co-workers, friends carrying more than a human should. Doing your best is enough. Perfection is not required. Practice. Whisper to yourself, I bring what I can, and let your breath lighten. Story 68. A man struggling with restlessness came to the Buddha. He jumped from one idea to another, never finishing, always chasing something new. He felt scattered and ashamed. The Buddha placed a single cup before him. When you pour water here, he said, it fills. When you pour everywhere, it spills. The man felt clarity settle in. Maybe you've tried to juggle too many goals or responsibilities, burning out before any felt complete. Focus strengthens the heart. Scattering weakens it. Practice. Choose one task for tomorrow and commit to giving it gentle attention. Let everything else wait. Story 69. A monk troubled by guilt approached the Buddha. He had forgotten an important duty and feared he'd never be trusted again. The Buddha pointed to footprints in the sand. Soon the wind will erase them, he said. What matters is where you step next. The monk breathed easier. Maybe you've made a mistake you keep revisiting, feeling stuck in the imprint of the past. The past softens when you move forward. Your next step matters more than the last. Practice. Imagine your mistake as a footprint fading slowly under a warm breeze. Story 70. A householder visited the Buddha. Overwhelmed by conflict at home, he felt tension at every meal, every conversation, every evening. The Buddha led him to a quiet pond. Even troubled water becomes clear when left undisturbed. he said gently. The man felt a subtle calm settle inside him. Maybe your home has held stress lately, raised voices, misunderstandings, unspoken worries. Peace begins with one calm presence. Softness changes the room. Practice take one slow breath before your next conversation at home, letting your tone arrive gentler than usual as the night deepens around you and this quiet hour finds its final moments. I want you to feel how gently you've traveled, how softly you've drifted, how naturally the world has begun to settle inside you. All evening, we rested with simple lines of Buddhist peace, spoken like lanterns in the dark, guiding your mind toward the stillness that was always waiting. Not lessons, not instructions, just soft reminders. The way the moon reminds the ocean how to rise and fall without ever speaking a word. And now, here, at the end, you are floating in that same slow rhythm, held by a night that asks for nothing except your presence, your breath, your rest. Let whatever thoughts remain grow quieter, the way a river slows under the first touch of winter air. Not frozen, not forced, just moving with a softer intention, a gentler pace. You've carried enough today. You've given enough. You've thought enough. Now your body understands it's time to release. Time to loosen the weight around your shoulders. Time to let your jaw soften like a leaf resting on warm water. Time to let your belly rise and fall without effort, without direction, without needing to be right. Just breathing, just being. You may notice a kind of space opening in you, a lightness that wasn't there this morning. Something like a window cracked open to let the night air flow in. Cool, quiet, easy. This is the gift of listening deeply, not to the world, not to any teaching, but to yourself. Feel the way your breath spreads outward, like ripples across a still pond. Feel the way your breath returns, gentle as the tide finding the shore again. Nothing rushed, nothing sharp. Every inhale invites a little more softness. Every exhale invites a little more release. And somewhere inside this rhythm, your whole being begins to understand that peace isn't something you achieve. It's something you remember. The night remembers it for you. The moon remembers it. The stars remember it. The dark sky above your room holds it with a tenderness you don't have to earn. Let the last echoes of the day fall away, like petals drifting from a flower that no longer needs to hold them. If a worry appears, let it float past you the way a cloud crosses the face of the moon, changing nothing, taking nothing, only moving on. If a thought rises, let it drift to the edges, soft and far, like a lantern carried downstream. You are not pushing anything away. You are simply letting everything weaken its grip. And in the soft thinning of those thoughts, you may feel your breath become even slower, even deeper, even more your own. Notice the warmth in your chest. Notice the gentle heaviness in your limbs. Notice the way your eyes want to close fully now, like two curtains lowering at the end of a long, kind play. This moment belongs to you. This rest belongs to you. All through this hour together, we followed simple lines of peace, spoken softly enough for the heart to hear. Lines that asked for nothing except your presence. Lines that touched your breath the way moonlight touches the ocean quietly, steadily, without asking to be seen. And those lines stay with you now, not as ideas, but as a feeling, a warmth, a gentle reminder that you are allowed to let go. You are allowed to sink into the safety of this night. You are allowed to drift without direction, without fear, without thought. Feel the air around you grow softer, like a blanket warmed by kindness. Feel the mattress beneath you cradle your weight with the patience of the earth. Feel the quiet move inward, filling every space where tension once lived. The world is dimming for you now. The edges of the room blur. The colors fade. The sounds turn to whispers. Everything becomes gentler, gentler, gentler still. And you, still breathing, still softening, are floating, as though a warm tide has lifted you and carries you without effort into the calmest part of the ocean. You do not need to hold yourself afloat. The water holds you. The night holds you. Your breath holds you. Let yourself surrender to that steady, natural support. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to fix, nothing left to understand. Only this moment expansive, cool, quiet, and endlessly kind. Let the night gather you in its arms. Let your thoughts dissolve like mist. Let your breath guide you into the soft, unbroken silence waiting just beyond the next exhale. And as you drift down, deeper, quieter, feel the whole universe settling with you. The sky above, the earth below, your heart in between, all moving in one gentle rhythm. Rest in that rhythm now. Rest in the space where effort ends. Rest in the peace that was always yours. Good night, dear one. May your last waking breath tonight be the beginning of a long, quiet silence that carries you into sleep.